Hello, Black Tech Fest. We are so excited to be here with you. Our talk today is on what we like to call making your brand a beacon in the storm ahead. We're really excited to share our thinking with you, but just a little bit about us, just so you know who you're listening to. We are 21st Century Brand, or 21CB, since sometimes it's a mouthful. We're a global brand consultancy that's based between the US, specifically California, and Europe, but we're kind of all over. And we came together building the Airbnb brand between 2014 and 2019. And since then, we've worked with some of the world's most influential brands, including Pinterest, LinkedIn, Peloton, and many others. For us, our thesis is that purpose-driven brand building is really a timeless endeavor. No matter what point we are in the economic journey of your company or any company that you work for, that when we do this well, that brand can shape entire categories and create new ones, while also galvanizing employees and attracting the best talent, growing and really loyal communities, and most relevant right now, guiding a company through the darkest hour and spotlighting future pathways. In terms of who we work with, I just mentioned a few, but we work with a lot of different types of companies, from B2B brands to B2C ones, but also not just technology companies. We've also worked with Mars and Walmart, and increasingly we kind of work with a variety of different sectors and industries. My name is Fozia Musa, and I am a strategy director, and also I work on our inclusion brand projects. Some of the clients I've worked with are Peloton, Flow Health, and starting a new philanthropic endeavor for the Pusaz family. I'm also working on my novel. And I'm going to introduce my colleague, Colin, who you'll hear from later today.
And hi, everyone. Really excited to be here at Black Tech Fest. My name is Colin Chow. I'm Global Managing Partner at 21CB, based in San Francisco, and I run our US business. So really excited to share these learnings with you, and back to you, Fozia.
Thanks, Colin. So we've heard this phrase before, and it was something that was reiterated by Sequoia in their most recent presentation to the many founders in their portfolio, that every crisis is an opportunity. And if we think about some of the biggest companies and brands around the world, many of them were actually started during a downturn. So Fortune magazine started 90 days after the market crash of 1929. Walt Disney was started during a very difficult period, also 1929. General Motors was started in the panic of 1907. Microsoft started in a recessionary period in the 70s, LinkedIn in the post-dot-com bubble, and recently, or in recent times for us, Airbnb came out of the financial crash of 2008. And so we feel that there's a learning from every economic downturn. And unfortunately, we've had three major ones in the last 30 years, and each one was different, but also equally terrifying. However, we have learned one thing, which is that you just can't pause your brand. However, your brand can actually help you get through the downturn. And so just to remind us, even though we probably don't need reminding, that we're facing the perfect storm right now. There's the war in Ukraine, which has had huge economic implications on rising energy prices, pandemic impacts that we're still experiencing the fallout from today, inflation and stagflation, really kind of increasingly tighter belts for consumer behavior, plummeting valuations, and frankly, the end of cheap capital, which is something that Sequoia has also reiterated. And as you just have to read the news every day, every moment, it's chaos out there, and we've all got whiplash. If you're in the UK, you know exactly what I mean. Big bet categories are in free fall. So, Bitcoin, Ethereum, both have really plummeted over the last year. Hyperscience is laying off 25% of their staff. Meta, Google, Snap are all in the midst of hiring freezes. They're hinting at layoffs, and there's just overall spending that's being cut across the board in reaction to slower consumer and advertising spend. And Coinbase as well has endured a really horrible time, reporting lots of declines and having to cut their staff. So it's not looking great out there. However, there's hope, and there's a lot of hope, because we believe that brands can actually be really bold in turbulent times. And there are many examples of brands that have not only just started in a recession, but survived it and come out stronger. A recent Nielsen brand resonance report showed that increasing awareness and consideration by just 1% with upper funnel marketing drives can drive a 1% increase in future sales. And increasing awareness and consideration by 1 point can decrease short-term cost for every acquisition by the same amount. And then another study last year, which was commissioned by Google, that study showed that brands that added upper funnel marketing efforts to existing mid-funnel campaigns were able to increase ROI by 70%. And those that added upper funnel tactics to campaigns that cover the mid and lower funnel were able to boost ROI by 13%. So this goes to show that brand level marketing can actually be really value add for wherever you are in the marketing journey right now and whatever implications it has on your marketing spend. One example that we're looking to right now in terms of a brand that's really kind of leaning into its ambition is the European fashion powerhouse Zalando, which continues to reimagine their mission of reimagining a more fulfilling mainstream fashion by taking a majority stake in hipster media company High Snobiety. And full disclosure, Zalando is a client of ours, but we were really pleased to see them making these big, bold moves, knowing that they're really trying to expand their brand footprint across the globe. Another example that we think is really interesting in terms of investing in brand is Pinterest and their investment and takeover of Tastemade. So they're really doubling down on their kind of purpose and their brand platform of being the world's inspiration company with this groundbreaking deal. So it's a first of its kind multi-million-dollar global strategic partnership that's all about bringing more creators to the fore, more content, and also live streaming on Pinterest. So today, many of you in the audience are at the helm of really exciting businesses, which are at different stages. And you're probably asking yourself or being asked by your company, by your peers or your investors, how are you going to grow efficiently? Where can we slash excess and spending? And of course, how can we cut these unaccountable expenditures like brand and marketing? But we're here to tell you that those are all good and bad questions, that third question in particular is valid, but really the wrong starting point. Yes, investing in a big splashy marketing campaign is poor taste when you really need to conserve capital. However, we would argue that you don't have to take a hatchet to everything, especially brand. And that's because brand is so much bigger than its spending potential. We all know it's that North Star, and that a company and the category needs that more than ever. And living into your purpose and your values and articulating them first and foremost, and really making sure that your value proposition is clear and steadfast is really crucial in these uncertain times. And it's really crucial for your employees, for your peers, and for your investors, because it really is that beacon that will get you through a challenging period. Lessons from the last 30 years will show us that, and do show us that companies who thrive in downturns really have their brand fundamentals to address the changing commercial and cultural context. Brand ends up becoming actually that really critical leadership tool that helps you really navigate the financial, consumer, employee, and cultural challenge at hand. And we're going to go through some examples that really bring that to life in a moment. Over to you, Colin.
All right, great. So what are those lessons? I'll talk through some of the specific lessons that we've identified on how your brand can be a beacon during this period of economic uncertainty and hardship. So we'll go through 5 lessons. With each of those, we'll share the lesson and a quick example to really bring it to life. The first lesson is that clarity matters more than category. It's less about what industry or audience you're serving. It's really more about having clarity of vision and purpose. And the most decisive variable in leaders' ability to meet the moment is really about that clarity of what you stand for. Without that latter clarity, what we're seeing is a lot of tech leaders struggling to adapt with confidence to all of the changes that Fozia talked about. Two examples that come to mind that really bring this to life are Salesforce and Oracle, two tech companies that have been around for a while, but have really strong brand narratives as well as visible mission-driven leaders. Oracle most recently announcing a grand vision to be more of a medical information company than a technology company. And that gives them the confidence and clarity to buy a $28.3 billion acquisition in the middle of an incredibly turbulent time. Or recently here in San Francisco, Salesforce had a very successful Dreamforce event where they unveiled their biggest innovation in 20 years around hyper-personalized customer experience. So when you have a very clear sense of where you want to go and a very clear sense of your brand's purpose, it enables you to move forward with confidence, even when everything around you has become very uncertain. Lesson number two, brand helps you cut with a scalpel, not a cleaver. As the Sequoia Crucible keynote notes, this is not a time to panic. It is time, though, to pause and reassess. So it's important for all of us to remember cost cutting is an important tactic, but it's not a strategy. It requires reprioritization and long-term vision. And so as leaders, we all need to make difficult decisions relatively quickly, or else we risk hemorrhaging value and morale. Harvard Business Review made the argument that previous recessions have demonstrated brand strategy fundamentals are actually a proven tool to ensure that leaders are cutting with scalpel-like precision rather than flailing with a cleaver and causing long-term damage. As a great example of that, Airbnb uses brand not only to drive innovation, but to make pinpoint decisions that increase efficiency. Back in 2014, when Airbnb landed on creating a world where everyone can belong anywhere as the overall brand mission and driver of the company experience, founder and CEO Brian Chesky was able to quickly cut 25% of all existing projects in the company because it was clear they were not furthering up the mission. That freed up resources, freed up capital, and allowed Airbnb to become more efficient in becoming the company that it is today. More recently, as additional evidence of that, the Airbnb CFO just said, we were right to shift spend from performance to brand building. And that's incredible because Airbnb is one of those companies that has weathered the pandemic, first taking an incredible hit economically, but rebounding quickly. And from the chief financial officer making a public statement that we are right to shift spend from performance to brand building, again, reinforces the idea that when you are clear on your brand and the purpose, it allows you to cut with a scalpel and not cut with a cleaver in a way that can cause long-term brand damage and damage to your company as well. So lesson number three, nurture missionaries over mercenaries. We all know that declining capital leads to declining confidence. So holding on to your best talent right now and your most loyal talent is going to be harder than ever in the context of plummeting stock options and delayed IPOs. The truth is there's no silver bullet, but leaning authentically into purpose and values is a proven way for leaders to build a more convicted, missionary mindset and to help quell an inevitable employee unrest about the direction of the business. So by bolstering your employee brand, that also helps you attract the best unsettled external talent, which will equip you to win the longer-term battle for top talent. And that's something that we hear VCs continually advocate for portfolio companies to prioritize, downturn notwithstanding. The war for talent is so intense and so important to success. A great example that illustrates this lesson is Instacart. Recently, Instacart doubled down on their values, their employee proposition, their shopper value proposition, all as part of their brand refresh, which we help them with. And they internally aligned first on the values that their brand can manifest, and then applied those values to two of their most important communities. So after we helped Instacart develop their foundational brand strategy, they then take the elements of that and thought about two things. Number one, their employees, and number two, the shoppers, the people who actually go and get the groceries. And during the COVID lockdown, these shoppers were incredibly heroic, often a lifeline for people who couldn't go out and get groceries and food on their own. So we helped to apply the brand strategy not only to an employee value proposition that ensured that Instacart continued to attract the top talent that allowed it to fuel its continued growth, but also applied it to a very values-driven approach to their shoppers as well, because they recognized, to their credit, that the shoppers weren't being treated as fairly as they could. And so we helped them create a set of shopper commitments that helped shoppers feel more valued, rewarded, and really helped to protect them even down to their safety as they went about the business that was so critical to Instacart. The fourth lesson is purposeful adaptation. The whole line of advice of double down on your current brand and spend your way out of the recession is too dangerous for most companies, especially ones that are still in startup mode. Yes, some brands are born recession ready, but most are going to need to evolve to meet the moment. But if these pivots are playing both strategic offense as well as tactical defense, the results can be really spectacular. A great example of that from the last downturn in 2008 is Samsung. Back in that recession, Samsung, like many other businesses, reorged to focus on profitability and efficiency. But it also did something really smart, which was to redouble its effort to improve the quality of a reduced set of products. In other words, it took a really close look at what exactly was the value proposition to its consumers, to its communities during that time. And so it shifted its strategy. Instead of trying to be all things to everyone, really aimed to be a global leader in the limited set of products that they anticipated that consumers would shift to, higher quality products rather than lower quality products made at mass scale. And counterintuitively increased marketing expenses and made an effort to hire the best brand managers. And since then, coming out of that last downturn, Samsung has really emerged as a formidable player, giving Apple a run for their money in terms of being the leading consumer electronics business. So it doesn't mean turning away from everything that you do, it really means adapting purposefully. The fifth lesson, and this one is so important to us, is this is a time to really invest in your communities, the communities that help you build your brand. In times of scarcity, it's very easy to see your customer, your audiences, your consumer as just another unit on a spreadsheet. But in fact, the communities are the ones that support and fuel your brand, the ones that help you and that you will help most in this time of uncertainty. So of course, it's important to have a smart growth strategy, but it's also crucial to invest in valuing your user communities without exploiting them. This means also looking at the wider category and reflecting on which communities have we historically ignored, or which communities have been overlooked, and how do we serve them more in order to create greater diversity, equity, inclusion within the communities in a way that not only is morally correct, but is going to drive our business and carry us forward. One example of this is Headspace. And a few years ago, we worked with Headspace to expand from a meditation app for a few to a mindfulness platform that is accessible to a much broader audience. Because of course, the insight there is that the people who actually need help with mental wellness the most are often the communities that can least access it, whether because of economic or cultural barriers. And right as we finished that strategic work for Headspace, COVID hit and the world went into lockdown. And rather than retreat, and rather than go into defensive mode, Headspace had the courage and conviction to actually say, this is the moment when the world needs Headspace more than ever. And so we helped them to launch their first ever mass brand campaign that was around the idea of the Headspace promise, meaning that wherever the world needs help with mental wellness, Headspace will be there. And rather than ads, what it really was about actions of generosity for the brand community. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, Headspace offered free one-year subscriptions to anyone in the United States who lost their jobs as a result of COVID. And that was a real effort from Headspace, a genuine effort to mitigate the psychological effects of a rising jobless rate, almost the second pandemic that we talked about. There was the health pandemic and then a mental health pandemic in the wake of COVID-19. So Headspace did that. They made it free for first responders. They rolled it out across Europe and other territories, but all again in the idea that when there's economic uncertainty, it's actually time to double down on your communities, not turn your backs on them. So that's the 5 lessons we wanted to share with you. Just to recap: clarity over category, cut with a scalpel, not a cleaver, nurture the missionaries, not the mercenaries, adapt purposefully, especially in terms of your value proposition, and be sure to invest in your communities. And we'll leave you with this: 3 questions to prepare yourself to be ready in this time ahead. Brand strategy really boils down to answering these big questions. Number 1, product market fit. Is your value proposition today reflecting the evolution of category drivers in the way that everything has been turned upside down, really taking a close look at your value prop and is it still delivering on the needs of your audience? Number two, purpose culture fit. Is your purpose still relevant to the most urgent universal tensions? Is it rooted in a universal human truth that is timeless, or do you need to evolve that purpose in order to better serve where culture is today? And finally, number three, positioning and community fit. Is your brand justifying its place in people's wallets at a moment when every single penny is being scrutinized? And is it helping position you, your company, your brand as a functional and emotional necessity in this time of uncertainty? And if the answer is no to any of those questions, it's time to take action. It's time to really think about how brand can help you become a beacon. You can pause your next funding round, you can pause an IPO, but you can't pause your brand. And as brand leaders, every day we're asking customers and employees to invest their time and money with us. So the least we can do is invest our time and money to make sure our brands are ready to meet this moment. All right, so that's what we have. Fawzia, any final words for Black Tech Fest as we wrap up?
No, this has been really, really great. We're so excited to be here with you, and we hope to hear from many of you later today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, coming in this story.
I'm Christiana, I'm the co-founder of Eats and Beats. My passion is bringing people together with food and music. We decided to start Eats and Beats because we wanted to find an avenue that can bring people together, and we just found that food is always the best way to do that. We chose to set up a domain with GoDaddy, and we just felt it was important to have a professional email address. We do a lot of goodie bags for our event. It was a bit difficult to be contacting all these brands and be having like a personal like Gmail or Hotmail account. I was really impressed by the customer service. The person I spoke to was really helpful, and no question is a silly question. Client care is so important to me, and I was just immediately impressed, and I just felt comfortable to put my business in the hands of GoDaddy.
For the help and tools you need to grow online, GoDaddy.
Deliveroo presents The Order. You've now crossed over into the pizza zone, a window of pizzery anticipation. Your mind has melted into mozzarella. Pizza, 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 pizza. Go on, do a little pizza dance. Dance round and round like a pizza. Oh, that was quick. Nice jacket. Oh, bingo. Deliveroo. Food, we get it. Hey!